Kevin Elizabeth, a wedding photographer based in San Diego, and today I'm going to be talking about tips when it comes to browsing Pinterest for your wedding inspiration. Pinterest can be an amazing tool. I actually have a video that I posted a very long time ago about the pros and cons of it for your wedding, but today I'm simply going to be talking about tips. Pinterest is an amazing place to curate inspiration for any part of your life, but it is highly used for weddings for so many elements of the wedding day, whether it's decor, fashion, your hair and makeup. All of these things are incredible to have curated in one place that you can use for your inspiration to show your vendors or show your friends or whoever is producing your wedding. So the first tip that I want to say is that you should always know that everything you pin on Pinterest that is super big and fancy is of course going to be very expensive. I find that a lot of brides will pin beautiful things because they're all over Pinterest, but then they are shocked to find out the true cost behind them. If there are tons and tons of flowers, dripping crystals, or just like so many arrangements all over the place and you love that, especially giant tall arrangements, full floral chandeliers, those are going to be very expensive items. So if you are pinning things like that, but maybe you don't have that budget, just keep in mind that that should actually be more of an inspiration of this style and really truly inspiring rather than what you are trying to copy, because you won't be able to copy something like a $10,000 floral budget on a couple of tables if you only have a $2,500 floral budget and a lot more tables. So that is one thing that you have to keep in mind. I know it sucks that sometimes amazing things are really expensive and like huge production of things are incredibly expensive, but again, you can still use that for general inspiration, just knowing that that's not what you're trying to copy because that might not be achievable for your budget. So that is one thing that I want to say before moving further is always have realistic expectations of what it is that you're pinning. I know that costs aren't really out there in the wedding world because so much of it is so variable, and that's why people can't just list a one price fits all for a centerpiece or a bouquet or photography. There's so many components that go into it, especially for flowers, the kinds of flowers you pick, the season you're in, how many guests you have, so many different variables. That's why you're not going to find that pricing out there. But you can always tell your florist, your vendor, whoever you're working with, this is my budget for this is my inspiration, how close can we get to something on this level? And they will let you know immediately. Now, another tip I have for Pinterest for your wedding is that you shouldn't only pin wedding content as your inspiration. I personally love to find inspiration that is architecture or home decor or food and let those things also inspire the wedding. I don't love the idea of trying to copy somebody else's wedding. If you guys have seen my wedding, you'll know that it was very unique. My dress was certainly unique, and I wanted something that spoke to me. I didn't want to put a lot of wedding content on my Pinterest board because I wanted to draw from really fresh ideas and bring in new concepts to my wedding. So for me, that was very important, but I generally encourage that anyway because that is how you can really open up your mind to having a wedding that is more personalized to you rather than only pinning wedding things that have already been done and just wanting to copy them or take inspiration from things that have been done 100 times. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I just want to encourage you guys to look outside of weddings, that look at anything in life that interests you. It could be art, it could be sports, who knows? All these different things are really inspiring, and I am going to be giving you guys a peek at what my wedding Pinterest board actually looked like so that you can see how we got from there to my wedding. It doesn't look like an exact copy. It is truly inspiration for the vibes and the theme and the overall colors and ideas behind the wedding. And I think that by doing that, we were able to have a really fresh, original, personalized wedding that didn't look like other things that we had already seen. I wanted our wedding to be us and not little bits of everybody else's wedding. But again, if you want to do that, there's totally nothing wrong with that. Another thing that I recommend when you are pinning for your wedding is to have separate boards. So maybe you have a board for wedding fashion, a board for wedding hair and makeup inspiration, and then a board for decor. If you have a huge budget and you are going to have lots of different areas that you need to decorate, like a lounge, your ceremony, your cocktail hour, you could even have separate boards for all of those things, or just simply pin for overall vibes and an overall style for all of your decor. So having this separate is really easy. One, because you could share it with your partner and not have your dress inspiration mixed in with all of your decor inspiration. And two, it just keeps things clean and neat. That way you can send the hair and makeup board only to the hair and makeup person. They don't have to sift through all of your photos of other types of wedding content in order to find your beauty inspiration. So that is really helpful not only for you, but also for your vendors. Another tip I have, especially if you are having a long engagement, is to go back and curate all of your boards. So if you pinned a couple of months ago, go back to your board and delete things that no longer resonate with you. I do this a few times because I love to just go on a pinning spree and pin anything that shows, like, stands out to me. But then once I've done that, I always just tailor it, make it more refined, more cohesive. If I see my beautiful colorful board, but then all of a sudden I see something I pinned that's beautiful, but it's really dark and it doesn't fit with the rest of my board, that has to go. I can save that for another project, but it doesn't fit. So this is a really good thing to do to keep yourself cohesive so that when you're showing your florist or your designer, whoever it is that's working on the aesthetics of your wedding day, they're not distracted or they don't like go towards something that doesn't fit with the rest and get hung up on that. If they see a nice cohesive board, they are better able to execute your actual vision than if your board is a little bit all over the place or you have some things that don't mix well together. They might not know which style you're looking for. They might try to blend them together. So by having it cohesive and curated is great. I would recommend doing this a couple of times depending on how long you're pinning, and make sure you go through each board, because if you pinned 6 months ago, you might hate everything from then and have a totally different vision now. So a really great tip to keep in mind. Another thing that you can do is actually add people to your Pinterest board. So if you have a planner or your fiance, you can add these people to the board so that they themselves can not only see it, but they can also add pins to it. That can be really helpful. I had this with my own planner. They were able to pin some things on there, and that was really nice to have them be able to directly contribute to my board. I also do this with editorial shoots. We're all collaborating, so I want other people to be able to pin things they find that fit the vision. So this can be really great for you, unless you have a fiance or someone who's gonna go crazy and put too many things on there that don't fit. But if you want them to be able to contribute, add them as an actual contributor or collaborator, whatever the Pinterest term is. Really nice thing to do. The last tip that I want to share with you guys is kind of tied into the first point I made, but it's really, really important that you consider your Pinterest board to be inspirational rather than literal. And that is something that you need to communicate to whoever you're sharing your board with. Is either I want to copy all these things, I want it just like this, or I simply want it to be inspired by this. This is the mood, the vibe, the feeling, the style I'm going for, and I trust you to create something fresh from that. That's very important to discuss, because you might send people a board and they might assume one or the other and get it wrong. So definitely let them know whether you're taking it literally or just as general inspiration. Maybe there's a few must-haves that you really want to have in your wedding, and you can point those out separately. I did that with certain market lighting styles. I found one photo of it and I said, this is the one thing that I really want. So that for me was literal, but everything else was just simply and purely inspirational. And again, I think that that is a really great way to go about it, because then you can have something created for you that is really unique to who you are and what you're wanting for your wedding day. So that is the last tip I'm gonna leave you guys with. Take a look at your Pinterest boards. Feel inspired by it. Add things to it that are missing. Take away things that you don't want. Be realistic about how much of that you can transfer over to your wedding based on your budget or your vendor list or your style. All of these things are really great things to be thinking about when it comes to pinning for your wedding. If you guys did enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a like, say hello down in the comments, and I will see you next time. Bye!